Welcome to the episode of Lost in the Script TV. How y'all doing? Another episode here on this Sunday. Had to do a little rescheduling, a little reshuffling. As possible, as always, we're gonna get to some stories going on. Hold on. Hopefully my sound should be good. All right. A lot to get to, some scandals to get to, some discussions being had on some tragic situations. All right, that's unfortunate, but we're gonna get to it. Sunday, we're gonna get to this. Hold on, hopefully y'all good. So 226, we in the building. Decided to do a little earlier today, came in at 11. I might end up going even earlier at some point. But we'll see. But anyway, let's go ahead and get right into it. Hold on. Update to this story. Singer David arrested after team found dead in Tesla. Obviously, this story has been developing for the last year or two, year and a half, really. Singer David seemed like he was a person. I didn't know who he was until this case popped off. He was moving up in the industry. He'd signed artists. He had a few songs that did pretty well on social media. And then all of a sudden he got hit with a case where he was accused of murdering a 14-year-old girl. Before I get to, I'm going to show this little clip here. Let me show this and what they had to say.
Back here in the U.S., the family of the 14-year-old whose body police say was found in Singer David's Tesla is speaking out. He's now under arrest in connection with the alleged murder and due to be arraigned on Monday. David's attorneys maintain his innocence. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was reported missing back in 2024. Here's ABC's Jacqueline Lee.
Tonight, the family of Celeste Rivas, the 14-year-old girl whose body was found in the trunk of Singer David's car, is speaking out for the first time. The family saying they will be at the singer's upcoming arraignment and is committed to ensuring that Celeste's voice is heard and her memory is honored throughout this process. David, whose legal name is David Burke, was taken into custody Thursday on suspicion of her murder. The tense moments caught on this TMZ video.
If you try to run or you try to resist, you will get hit with nothing. It's gonna hurt.
I got you. All right, so the gate is locked. You open the gate.
His arrest coming 7 months after police say they made the gruesome discovery of Rivas' body dismembered and decaying in a Tesla registered to Burke, saying she had likely been dead for weeks. The car found in an impound lot after workers noticed an odor. Friends and neighbors of Rivas holding a memorial this weekend.
We clicked as neighbors. She'd see me and she'd wave and, she was nice, nice person.
David, the platinum-selling artist known for hits like Here With Me.
I don't care how long it takes.
Has more than 40 million streams on Spotify. At the time of the body's discovery, a source said his record label paused all promotion and his world tour canceled.
Witt, in a statement, David's attorney saying his client is innocent and did not kill Celeste Rivas. Investigators are expected to present a case to the district attorney on Monday, who will weigh formal charges. Witt.
Agreed. Shout out to Craig. He said this story is strange. I agree. I've said from the beginning, when I seen this story, it is things. On one hand, this is a young man, obviously. I think he was 20 when this first popped up, 1920. Now I think he's like 21, 22 or whatever. This is a strange story because on one hand, it's believable because it could just be a mentally unwell young dumbass kid, or young dumbass young man, whatever. So it makes sense because he has songs where his lyrics kind of seem like he's painting a story of the case of this Celeste young girl, this little 14-year-old little girl. But it's too on the nose, if that makes sense. Like, I know in most cases when you talk about law enforcement, they always say the easiest answer is normally the right answer. You know, it's normally the person that you think it is. It's pretty easy to point out the person who killed somebody. You know, when it comes to spousal, when spouses go back and forth and somebody ends up dead, it's normally the spouse who killed their partner or whatever. Most cases are that simple. The person closest to them normally is the one who did it. But this case is so on the nose and so like, it's just so easy to put this together and immediately call him guilty that I'm just like, something just don't make sense. The only way it makes sense to me, right? You found this little girl's remains in the trunk of a Tesla that's in his name. So already it just don't make sense. The Tesla is left on the side of the road pretty much. It gets finally picked up, sent to the whatchamacallit, where somebody finally starts to smell something and say something's wrong, and they check it on his body. The only way this makes sense to me, and this is what I think, if this was an accidental killing, or if he wasn't the person who actually did it. When I say he didn't do it, I'm not saying he didn't know about it and didn't try to cover it up. The reason why I said it is, the only reason this would make sense to me is a lot of people watch too much TV and think when something like this happens, somebody either dies or you kill someone, the easiest way to get out of it is to dismember the body, cut them up, and take them to some place and bury them, and you can get away with the crime because they watch too much TV. The only way this can make sense is something like that happened. He panicked, got in the car, took this remains with him, panicked, couldn't deal with the paranoia he was dealing with. So he decided to just leave the car somewhere or leave the vehicle somewhere. And obviously it ends up getting tracked, and people end up finding out about what happened, and now it's linked to him, and now he's in custody for suspicion, by the way. He's not charged with it quite yet. I think tomorrow, Monday, is when they're supposed to do an actual get in front of the DA and actually put the charges in front of him so he can actually be officially charged. He's been charged with suspicion of doing something. Because as far as I know, TMZ had put out something that said that they finally have some idea they put out a report that said they do know how she passed away. So, but before that, other than TMZ, I'm not seeing anywhere where they know how she came to her demise. There's no reports on how she did it, what was happening with strangulation or drugs or blunt force. There's nothing that tell us how she was taken. So, to me, if this is on purpose and this was a planned thing in anger, he wanted to do this, I feel like he would have did a better job of hiding it. This is in California. We see what happens when you go talk about Vegas and how many people try to bury people out in deserts and stuff. Hell, we see right now with Big U. That's what kind of case he's on. Allegedly, they found a body out there in the desert in Vegas that somebody here allegedly did something to. So this case is just on the nose so much, and it's so like he's guilty, it's obvious, that something in me is saying, I don't know. Once again, I'm not saying he doesn't know what happened. It's just, this is a strange case. It could just be he's just some weirdo kid. He said he was he was homeschooled. He was a weirdo kid who grew up to be a young man who was still into certain childish things while he was dating an underage girl, or quote unquote dating. But I do want to say, why is nobody bringing up the neglect of the young girl from her parents? I'm not going to forget the thought that, remember, the young girl's mother said she didn't know exactly who he was. She didn't know his name. She didn't know how he looked. So it's like, is that, we talked about this before last time we spoke about this, is in that community, in their culture, it is very normal for them to start dating at that age. I'm not saying it don't happen in every culture, but in their culture, it seemingly is very normal for a 14-year-old girl to just start, quote unquote, dating some 20-something plus year old man. The parents don't seem to be too against it. So she was moving kind of rebellious at 14, and the parents were just letting her do what she wanted to do, go away weeks at a time. This whole case is just weird to me. Now we'll see if he's just some weirdo killer who made songs talking about what he was going to do or what he did to some young girl, if he was just some freaked out little dude. We'll see. It's just a very strange case to me. And I don't think I outside of the fact of him just confessing, I think it just be one of those weird cases people hear about and just be like, it just doesn't make sense. I just don't think it makes sense. But anyway, thoughts and prayers to everyone involved. We'll see now as they're going to trial. At some point, they're gonna put the official charges on them. At some soon. A commentary on obviously the racial dynamic of the the adult black male singer doing something to the little Hispanic girl. I'm seeing a little bit of that too. It's not rumbling as loud as it was before, but I see that too. And I won't say it's a rare dynamic, especially when you talk about California in general. That dynamic is definitely not rare. Even in the music videos, the models that he used in his videos looked like this little girl. So maybe just a weirdo. We'll see. Next up. This is a gender wars topic that I knew was going to turn into one very quickly. Let me go ahead and just read this headline. Partner held in Zanzibar after American influencer Ashley Robinson dies under mysterious circumstances. I saw this post on X. I'm guessing this was her friend. This is how this story first blew up. A friend of this young lady came out and said her friend had passed away in a country with her fiance. It's been called a suicide, and that but she don't believe it. She believed that the fiance has something to do with it, and that he is moving strange. He hasn't posted about her. He hasn't done anything about her, said anything about her on his social media pages. This woman's supposed to be his fiance. What's going on? And that people found out obviously who he was and how he looked. And unfortunately that did become a thing that mattered at some point. I'm going to show a clip here of the news story. Hold on, let this ad load. I'm so sick of this shit. But it started out as obvious who did it. This man might have killed this woman, but they're saying it's a suicide. Let's make this a bigger story. But this is social media, and we're in the era of petty. So a bunch of people start looking at her old social media pages and stuff that she said, and it garnered some backlash. Let me play this news clip here right quick. Hold on. Craig said this dynamic had gender war written all over it. Yeah. When I saw influencer commits suicide on trip with fiance in Africa, I thought, oh, it's probably two African people, maybe two black people. Unfortunate story. We're gonna find out what happened. But unfortunately, we found out that her fiance is actually a Caucasian man, which became a bigger deal than maybe some people think it should be. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't care. Let's be honest, when we see stories like this of black men or black women dating outside their race and they come to their end by either murder or, self-inflicted, you kind of either keep scrolling, mind your business, you know what I mean? Or, you keep scrolling and mind your business, or you give a little empathy to the situation and keep it moving. Show a little sympathy. What up, Regina? Let me play this here, what they had to say about this case.
From New Jersey, they want answers after authorities in East Africa announced Ashley Robinson died in Zanzibar this past weekend. The 31-year-old was there with her fiance. Police say she was found unconscious in her luxury villa and later was pronounced dead at a hospital. Jerika Duncan spoke to Robinson's parents in their very first network interview. Jerika, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. Ashley Robinson, according to her family, was a light. She's the oldest of 6. She loved traveling the world. And they told me that they're very confused, honestly, by the lack of transparency about the investigation and the lack of communication from Robinson's fiance.
For influencer Ashley Robinson, known to tens of thousands of her followers as Ashley Janae, a birthday trip to a tropical paradise was supposed to be the pinnacle of a lifestyle built on travel and exploration. It was here on the East African island of Zanzibar where her boyfriend Joe McCann dropped to one knee.
I'm going to go ahead and say this right here. Regina said he got them devil eyes. Yeah. This is why I always look at social media couples, these people that become influencers and put everything in front of the camera and everything looks fake. And this is where these allegations or these accusations start, where people accuse all these women of being escorts and, you know, sugar babies. Because in this situation, you clearly took a trip to this country. This is all content. Let's be honest. This is content. I'm not saying you actually loved each other and you wanted to be together forever. I'm not, but this is content. So immediately people start to form an opinion on you, regardless if it's true or not.
On Monday, we spoke to Robinson's parents.
We both had FaceTime conversations with her. She was showing us the engagement ring and where they were. She was happy. It doesn't make any sense.
In the middle of celebrating her engagement to McCann, just days after her 31st birthday, police say Robinson was rushed to a local hospital after she was found unconscious and was later pronounced dead.
We found out that our daughter had passed from the hotel. The fiance did not reach out to us at all.
He said the fiance. See, this is what I mean. So it doesn't seem like, apparently they have been a thing. They've been an item for at least a year. That's what I've seen. He just proposed. It's her birthday. This is all new. So her parents don't seem to know this man very well. He's an older man, obviously, and he's a crypto scammer, or at least that's what he's been accused of. He's been accused of being a scammer. He's into the crypto thing. He's amassed his money through that and some other things. And looking at this right here, this is her mom and dad. Her father and mother aren't together. They divorced apparently when she was very young. His mother married a Caucasian man, and her father married I think a black woman. So when people was looking through her social media pages, and the reason why this became a gender war topic is because they found out that she says some things about dating, about her dating preference. You know, she made it known that she wanted to have mixed children. She let it known that her mother even told her that she's going to end up with a Caucasian man, and she had some critiques in dating black men or whatever, which at this point ain't got nothing to do with me. You already made your decision. It's social media. Who cares? You're going with your life. But because, once again, the gender war thing, and we seen the story with the dude, the black dude, I forgot where he was from. I think it was from Alabama or Florida. I can't remember which one. And he was married and had children with a Caucasian woman, and he ended up shooting him in the chest and killing him. And then people went and looked up his old social media post where he was talking crazy about black people. And he said a lot of heavy critiques about black people, in particular black women. So when people found out about it, they did the whole, that's what you get, rest in preference. We heard a lot of that. And this is where I don't subscribe to the back and forth, the petty gender war thing, right? To me, this is my opinion. Just because there were some people, because there was men and women, by the way, black men and women, and I was one of them, that when the black dude was killed by his white wife and he was talking crazy about black people, I was kind of like, whatever, ain't got nothing to do with us. It is what it is. He let it be known where he stand, what he believed. He was very critical. So, hey, it is what it is. Ain't got nothing to do with you. Ain't got nothing to do with us. So there are some people that carry that same feeling here. But the difference is she didn't really say much as far as I saw about black people. She said a few things, nothing as harsh as what the black dude said, but she said a few things about black men and had critiques about dating them. So you got some dudes that's just on some, I'm not tolerating no disrespect, and this ain't got nothing to do with us. I don't care. So Craig said this whole family is just embarrassing, and now the young lady is dead. Yeah, I'm in the TMZ interview, they had their partners sitting next to them. So this is CBS Morning. They didn't have their partners in this one. And in the TMZ interview, I should have got that one. I noticed that the mother in particular, I'm not saying she feels any guilt or shame, but I noticed her demeanor was very, like, she would look directly into the camera. Because I'm going to get into speculation of what I think happened after I finish this. I wonder if her parents knew about her alleged nightlife thing she was doing.
Robinson's mother told another news outlet the couple had an argument so severe that hotel staff moved them into separate rooms. Investigators in Zanzibar announced Tuesday that McCann is being held for questioning. Authorities have also seized his passport pending the results of an autopsy.
Do you believe that Joe McCann had something to do with your daughter's death?
We don't know what went on.
What did she tell you her dreams or her goals were for the future?
She believed that she was on the path of the next chapter of her life in settling with someone who she believed to be the love of her life.
Now, we have been unable to reach Joe McCann, his relatives, or anyone from the investment company that he founded. The State Department says it is monitoring the case. In the meantime, a crowdfunding page is helping raise money for Robinson's relatives to travel to Zanzibar to help get some answers.
So that's the official case. Now, the thing that came with this, and by the way, she mentioned there at the end that Ashley Janae's father launches GoFundMe to bring her daughter home from Tanzania. And this is the critique that started immediately. There's pictures of her in Lamborghinis, on private jets and helicopter trips. He's taking these lavish vacations and stuff. Now, I know when people pass, because we've had to deal with this in my own personal life, when someone passes, you don't automatically get access to their accounts and stuff immediately, unless they have it designated, obviously. But setting up this GoFundMe is kind of a cruel ending, considering the lifestyle she showed online. And the first thing you think is, why isn't the fiance, considering his fiance just committed suicide? And I think he's still obviously in Tanzania. He's not been allowed to leave. They took his passport. But why isn't he trying to make arrangements for her to be brought back to the States so her family can bury her? And then I saw this here. This is from Ebony, which, by the way, this article led to a discussion. You know, Ashley Janae's death raises questions about visibility and safety abroad. Said the sudden death of Ashley Janae last week during the birthday trip to Zanzibar raises question about the safety of Black women influencers traveling abroad. Ashley Janae, a Black woman influencer, died under suspicious circumstances. Her family demands a full investigation and transparency about her unclear death timeline. Her death highlights safety risks Black women influencers face when traveling abroad. In this article, I'm not going to read this whole thing and go into the discussion. They talked about the protection of Black women and the lack thereof, and does it come with them when they leave the country? And I saw this whole article as more of an analogy to the Black community and whether people deserve protection when they decide to date outside of it. I've seen a lot of critiques about, the safety. Why did he take her to that country in particular? Did he know that, Black women are unsafe? No one would care if he did this to her. And it's like, look, man, you make your decision who you want to be with. I know this whole idea of love is love, can't help. No, every decision, every person you allow near you is a decision you made to allow them there. And it is, and people's reaction to things you say and who you show publicly is going to be just that. They keep ignoring this part right here. This is not necessarily, but it's not been proven as true. This is just a random Reddit post that I read that most people seem to think this is the closest thing to more than likely what is and what happened. Not necessarily what happened, but what is and who she was. This person says, no one's going saying it, so I'll say it. Ashley may be an influencer now, but everyone in Miami knows she was a stripper. Joe met her at a party. He was literally working the pole at. She danced in his section, and ever since they're kind of going around the world fighting in luxury hotels for the last year and a half. This wasn't even the first time they become engaged. It was the second. It's also not the first time the police were called to break up one of their fights. He is currently subject of a financial crime investigation. He was taking profits from investments that were actually at a loss for years and got caught out there for doing it. He's rich, janky, older, has a massive power imbalance with her. And in my opinion, picked her because of that. Who knows what happened that night? May she rest in peace and may her family find the truth. But this is 100% a very open sugar baby on steroids situation. source. I know them personally, and we have many mutual friends. I seen Joe Budden podcast speak on this, and they said the same, that they knew her. They were somewhat close to her, friendly with her, spoke to her consistent, not every day, obviously, but they knew her at least. And they came to her defense, saying that, taken out of context, that she has nothing against black men and all the other stuff. It's like, look, man, we're in this is hypergamy at its finest. This is, I don't want to say gold digging, but this is hypergamy. There's this economy that exists now in America where young women, particularly, especially black women, are pushed into this lifestyle where it's fast money. You get online, become an influencer, and the whole point of your existence is to find a way to get somebody to take care of you and give you the finer things in life. We see it all the time, and it's very impressionable on the younger women, especially younger girls even. I'll be forgetting sometimes that people who are 15 and 16 and all stuff are on social media because everything has been mixed up. And I don't even know where you would go as a 15-year-old on social media that doesn't include adults talking about stuff that you shouldn't be around. This is an obvious case of a woman who wanted to live a certain lavish lifestyle, got with someone who was willing to give it to her, and now up in the air about what happened. It may be a situation, because I know a lot of these relationships that involve older men with money and younger women and includes drugs. A lot of hard drugs are being done. There was a case I want to say last year, the year before, of a black woman who overdosed in a hotel room with a Caucasian man that she met on a dating site. Because unfortunately, this is a thing that happens. These women who want to live this life, they get involved in this trade and they do drugs to cope. They get into these drugs and sometimes they OD. I'm not saying this is what happened to her, but that might be a possibility. Am I supposed to believe that this woman on her birthday, after just getting engaged, decided she was unhappy, so unhappy she decided to self-inflict in herself? Am I supposed to believe that he ended it with her and she was so heartbroken and she ended herself? Am I supposed to believe that he was angry with her for ending it with him or something of that nature and he did something to her? I don't know. I wish that this didn't turn into this gender war thing of who should be protected and should we care about a person for dying in these circumstances. But we've seen this happen multiple times. Once again, if you see a story like this and your opinion is got nothing to do with me, minding my business, that's different. But when you voicing it and saying, that's what she get or that's what he get, it leads to these petty back and forths online that just goes nowhere. Because now, unfortunately, you got a whole brigade online that's doing this whole white man protection where you got a possible case where a white man killed his black fiance and we're sitting here talking about, but black men do it too. We're talking about, we're comparing the violence of this woman and trying to make it seem like justifying it because, well, there's some black men that kill their wives and girlfriends, so it's okay. It's not, this shouldn't be this shouldn't be something that causes a rage in the community. There shouldn't be something that turns into anything that needs to be what's the word I'm looking for? Marched for anything. There's no activism necessary. But it is what it is. And speaking of that too, because this story is such a big thing, or it became a big thing, once again you started seeing people post stories of these black men killing their wives. So this story right here popped up. Former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax kills his wife and then himself, police say. So this man was obviously lieutenant governor. Before that, he was planning on running for a different seat a few years ago, but he got into some trouble. He was accused of a sexual assault case, which pretty much ended his chance at a higher level of government. The last year he served as lieutenant governor was 2022. He apparently had a drinking problem this whole time. Throughout this whole article, they let you know that he was having some mental problems, going through depression and such. He ended up going into the basement in an argument with his wife. I guess they were going through a divorce. They were staying in separate rooms in the same house. And he killed her. And then he went upstairs into another room and he killed himself. And it was in the house with his two teenage children. Or teenage kids or whatever. And this case has been, unfortunately, you have this section of, I guess you would call them these intersectional feminists that are using this as a justification for the Ashley Janae case of we shouldn't care about the race because, you know, black men do it too. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but know that you're defending, and there's been, especially this last week, there's been at least 25 stories that has been pushed into the timeline of these interracial couplings leading to death. So then I started seeing these type of stories pop up because people are trying to justify their dating choices. And it's just like, this is sad. What are we doing? Why are we comparing murderers? Like that doesn't matter. Like, this is crazy. But in this case, it led to a whole other controversy with a particular person we all know and love, and Roland Martin. Because Roland Martin came out and he made this comment here about this Fairfax case. He said, I'm aware of who she is. That was the wife who was killed. I knew him more than her. I called it what the authorities labeled it, which is a murder-suicide. I am aware of the divorce and the custody battle, personally called people who are involved in all of this behind the scenes. And my discussion on the show is to address this from a male perspective, which is rarely done. Now you got Roland Martin talking like a manosphere member. And I thought, why is Roland Martin showing any sort of sympathy or empathy towards this Fairfax guy? And then we find out he is also a part of the same fraternity that he is. You know, crazy to see Roland Martin posting multiple photos of himself with a man who just murdered his wife. He couldn't waterboard these photos out of me. They would never see the light of day, and I delete all references from my social media. She was murdered and had to just served him with divorce papers. This is femicide. That's another thing I'm seeing pop up a lot. This femicide is women targeted murders. Roland spent a paragraph on Justin's fraternity, his political devastation, his pain over sexual assault allegations. She got a sentence. He ended up retracting and taking that post down. As you can see, Roland Martin said, I normally don't delete my social media posts unless there's a factual error. But I have deleted my Justin and Serena Fairfax post because the leadership at Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity, Inc. asked me to do so in order to adhere to the Boulet's social media policy on sharing member names and images of our society on social media. You see right here, he said, last night I received an email from my fraternity leadership regarding my IG Threads Facebook post on the Justin Fairfax suicide. It's sad. It said the grand grammatis was requesting that I ask you to remove the reference and pictures related to our fraternity on your post in order to adhere to the Boulet's social media policy on sharing member names and images of our society on social media. I never want to delete social posts, even when people disagree. Discourse is valuable in any society. You mean engagement, but okay. As a member, I am doing it, but it's certainly not my desire. I also made clear that I would publicly state the reason for this. And I made one thing clear. Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network is committed to covering the story and others, as well as the impact on Black women, Black men, and Black children. And will continue to demand that brothers as individuals and leaders of the Black male organizations must aggressively combat domestic violence and confront mental health. We can't tout I am my brother's keeper if we're solid and complacent on the issues. Regina says Boulay got on remove the post. Damn, Gina. It's funny. The only people these people adhere to as far as when criticism from Black people is when it's part of their fraternities and stuff. But we know what that's about. That's where their loyalty lies. One thing he did say that is important is that we do need to speak about domestic violence in these type of cases. God, there was another story I saw recently of a pregnant Black woman was killed by her baby daddy. I've seen a few stories like that. I saw another story of a Black man killed like 8 kids. His kids, like 8 kids he killed. These stories do absolutely need to be spoken about, but I don't like that those stories are being used as a critique for dating preference. Please, we don't need to mix these things. Do what you want to do, is your life. But please don't use or justify your dating desires or your preference because Black men do this. No, because then we're gonna start getting into this idea of you're pathologizing this type of things, and it's not good. When you start ignoring these other races killing women, and you only use a reference to who you date based off of what Black men do, that's when we start calling you a coon. And that's when you lead into that. But you know, it is what it is. Also, Roland, but Roland saying that is kind of shocking, but I guess he has to. And the question I have is the reason his fraternity wanted it removed because it puts a bad light on them that one of their members committed this type of atrocity. So the fraternity don't even care what he did. They don't want it associated with their brand. The Boule members don't want what he did associated with them. So they want him pretty much scrubbed from any member's post. Don't post about him. You're a part of our society. You can't post about him. The everyday regular black person can talk about it, but you can't because you're part of our fraternity and you need to show loyalty to us, not black people. So Roland Martin is not allowed to come on social media. I don't know if he was doing this because people were criticizing him, as I showed, for showing somewhat more sympathy towards, I would say, his friend than the wife who he killed. But at the same time, you should want Roland Martin to speak about this black man who killed his wife and the other cases going on around the country and why we need to do something about domestic violence that lead to this, especially. Like that's not a bad, that's one of the few things I can't really get mad at Roland Martin for that part. He did something right. And y'all are pretty much saying, we ain't got time for that. You can't talk about it with your platform. Take it down. Then said reputation. Yep, reputation. Yeah, it's Boule, man, talented tent. They care more about the aesthetic than actually doing something. They want the words, they want the look. They want to look like they're doing this and that. And in reality, they're just trying to promote an image that they think white people will respect. But anyway. All right. I should be back. Sorry about that. Back to this. This story right here, unfortunately, it gets brought up every few years and it kind of goes nowhere. It's just right here. Authorities fabricated their reports. Judges accused of joining murder cover-up and $10 billion bombshell suit and Kendrick Johnson case. Now, this is the case obviously out of Chicago where a young man was found rolled up in a gym mat. There's been a lot of suspicion about what happened, who was a part of this, how does he get stuck there? They said he was looking for his shoe that fell down the mat. Other people said it involved students that were trying to fight him and ended up throwing him and rolling him up into the mat, throwing him in there. Others believe that it involves an FBI agent's son. There was a podcast done a while ago, like years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe it was recent. A white woman did a whole podcast dedicated to this case, and they went through extreme detail of all the conspiracies surrounding it. And then obviously, like I said, it involved the FBI agent's son possibly being in this. The state got involved. It was judges, even in that conspiracy. A lot of stuff was involved in this case, trying to cover it up. This family has brought this in front of judges like 3-4 times. Each time it's been thrown out. So nothing has been able to come up this case. As you see, in January 11, 2013, when a black teen named Kendrick Johnson was found dead inside a rolled-up mat in a high school gym in South Georgia. This is Georgia, by the way, not Chicago. I don't know what I was thinking. Under mysterious circumstances, death that was determined by Georgia Bureau of Investigation to have been accidental suffocation. But a second autopsy conducted by the private doctor through Johnson's family determined a 17-year-old high school student was killed by blunt force trauma, possibly murdered, contradicting the initial autopsy that claimed he died from positional asphyxia, the medical term for suffocation. A third independent autopsy also contradicted the government autopsy. Johnson's parents, Kenneth and Jacqueline Johnson, then began a legal battle against the local, state, and federal officials, accusing the government entities through lawsuits of conspiring to cover up their son's murder, only to see their lawsuits dismissed. So this has been going on for a minute. And there was something here I wanted to say. Hold on. Oh, yeah. I also saw, they said that when they got his body, after this fact, when it was time to bury him, that he had organs missing. I also remember that case. There was another case of a girl named Kanisha Johnson. I can't remember her name. The one who died in a hotel freezer. And people saying that there was some weird stuff with that one too. Now that one allegedly includes some type of beef with some female friend or something. I don't know. But this case here has always made people obviously think something else happened. But the question then becomes, and this is not to say that nothing happened to him, because it very well could be a cover-up, obviously. But at some point, especially with the people of us that talk about this type of case, at some point we're just looking for the answer that we want. And sometimes, obviously, like I said, it could be a cover-up. But at some point, if you have a separate autopsy too, that's on your side, that says, yes, something more happened. It was not no asphyxia. It was not suffocation. I get the parents constantly going along with this, saying clearly something happened. We had two separate autopsies that was on. That's saying that something else happened. We want a better investigation. We want y'all to tell the truth. I think at that point we know what it is, and unfortunately in this country, in America, I don't know what they could do. I don't know. I mean, the best you could do, obviously, is to make it a bigger story, talk about it more. But people have been talking about it since it happened. It was 2013. Like, it's 13 years ago. People have been talking about this story for the longest. And like I said, maybe we can get some people with bigger platforms who have been talking about it. Maybe we can try and create some type of, I don't know, like we did back in like 2016, 2017, some type of hashtag or something. How do you defeat the government or your local government who's trying to actively cover up a case that may be tied to the FBI? Knowing how far they will go to cover something up, it's a tragic situation. And to me, that's the point of these type of lawsuits, when you got these big numbers on it. It's just meant to grab headline. You're trying to get some attention back to this case. It's been turned into a cold case by some. Others have just pretty flat out said, at least the local government said, this is just an unfortunate situation. He suffocated. It's an accidental death. Sad story, sad case. Hopefully, at some point, I don't even know where to go at this point. Just something falls in their way, and they get some type of help. I don't know, but thoughts and prayers to them. They keep fighting. Hopefully, they win at some point. Hopefully, they get some type of win at some point. What we got? Oh, this tragic case. So there was a 15-year-old boy who was fatally shot during a fight in Queens at a basketball court. I'm gonna play some of this.
We're learning more about the 15-year-old boy who was killed last night at a park in Queens.
The shooting happened on a basketball court during a large fight. Eyewitness News reporter Phil Tate is live in St. Albans, Queens with more. And Phil, it feels like we're hearing too many of these kinds of reports.
Shirley, too many of these reports that just keep happening over and over again. Cops have identified that 15-year-old victim as Jaden Pierre. Jaden had his whole life ahead of him, but this was cut short at Roy Wilkins Park yesterday evening. As for the shooter, that person is still at large, and cops say that the person who pulled the trigger is seen on video running away from the scene. Let's get straight to some picture right now from yesterday at the scene. Cops say a large fight broke out around 6:15 last night with several kids on the court attacking that 15-year-old before a single shot was fired, striking the victim's upper chest. Pierre was taken to a local hospital but could not be saved. As young people scattered, playtime at the park came to a halt and detectives were left gathering evidence all night long from the court and playground. Longtime community advocate for peace, Erica Ford, reeling from this tragedy.
It is normally pretty safe, but somebody is bringing guns into our community and putting them in the hands of our children. Help build programming so these young people can have something to do after school.
And there are so many efforts just trying to make sure that these incidents don't happen. The motive behind this fatal shooting is still unclear, but we're told this may be gang-related. Anyone who has any information that could help this investigation.
This case was saddening me. Chris says, like Umar Johnson says, somebody's about to go to sleep for good. Exactly.
Some of them going to sleep for good.
Hey, man, look, I remember there was an episode of The Wire. I think it was like season 4, I believe. This is when they introduced the kids of The Wire. And there was the detective who was dealing with the streets and the drug thing and how you deal with the gangs. And he had this white sociologist or some type of therapist or something walking around with him, trying to understand the kids and try to get through to them. And he went to show them, I think he introduced him to like a 15-year-old. Oh, something like that. And he told a white dude, he said, these kids are too seasoned. You got to go younger. He 15? There's no way. 15 isn't that far gone. And he was too far gone. This is the TV show. And I'm comparing it to this because I always bring up this joke by Dave Chappelle, this joke where he said, how old is 15? When you got 15, 14, 16-year-olds running around with weapons, with these little kids got switches, they got all type of automatic rifles, they got all type of guns, all type of rifles and guns. They got some stuff. I remember there was a picture floating around like a decade ago out of Chicago with a rapper who had a damn bazooka, a damn rocket launcher. They have these crazy guns and weapons, and they have this extreme example of what toughness is, and they're being influenced heavily by peer pressure. And they're doing stuff that they will never be able to get away from for the most part. They're at a damn park playing basketball. And I have the video here. Obviously, I'm not going to show it. They have the video of what happened. So I'm trying to just go to a singular part. So this is the young kid right here, surrounded by these other kids, getting jumped, smacked on, punched. He didn't even fight back. And so when I heard them say it's gang related, I don't believe that at all. I believe this was at a park. They play basketball. The ego of some of these young dudes now is crazy. Somebody got dunked on, crossed up, shot on. Somebody was talking junk on the court, and it came off the court, and it turned into a situation where somebody was trying to be tough and prove you can't talk to me like that. And then it quickly turned into bullying because everybody is being, everybody wants to be in on it and joke and laugh. And then it turned dark. It went from bullying. It went from a little squabble argument to a squabble to bullying to a murder. And it shows that the crowd idea, when they say when one person from a crowd do something, how much it influences everybody else when the third person does it. So one person hits them, another person, and then another, and now everybody wants to do it, and now it's okay, and now they just bullying and punching on this little kid. I'm going to be honest, man. Some of them got to go. Some of them, it ain't going to do nothing for them. They got to go. Some of them, unfortunately, they were doomed from the start, whether it's their parenting, whether they didn't have parents, they were raised by the streets. They're looking for warmth, a home, somewhere to belong, and they found it in the wrong people. And they indoctrinated in something that they can't get away from. What does it mean when you can't even send your damn kids to a park? And it's funny because that's the number one argument you see people say when they talk about helping the youth. Hey, give them youth centers, give them basketball courts, give them fields to play football or soccer, give them a baseball field, give them sports, an outlet. But this motherfucker's going to the basketball court with guns. If I'm in that community, right? You think I'm sending my son to that park to let him play basketball? I'm gonna buy his ass a solo basketball rim, and I'm putting that shit out in the front of the house in the street like I did when I grew up. That's what we had. We had a park too, but people used to buy their solo goals for their own house. I'm not sending my kid to this park. I don't care. It's over. It's over for that. And that's not a good thing, because that leads to the second somebody in that community has some type of increase in money and month and yearly earnings or something, the first thing they're gonna do is leave that community, because your kids are shooting people kids. How the hell your kid got a gun and you just out here as a parent just lost and don't know? See, that's the other thing. How often these parents know their kids are doing dirt and will defend it. Craig said 2/3. 2/3 definitely got to go. No question. There's nothing. Yeah. And like I said, when you see places, I remember earlier, a couple weeks ago, LeBron got into a hornet's nest when he said something about Memphis. He was like, the Memphis basketball team need to go to Nashville. I don't want to be in Memphis. Memphis is boring, ain't nothing to do. The hotels is trash. He was speaking from a superficial standpoint. If he would have said, hey man, are we not paying attention to the shootings and killings in Memphis? Y'all been talking about Chicago for the last decade. How in Chicago's murder rate is dropping. Memphis has been the one that's been cutting hell since the last 4 or 5 years. And then when he says those comments about moving the team, and though I don't agree, obviously, they can, Memphis is the black city. Before we talk about Memphis being a black city, is it safe for black people? What we gonna do about these shootings and murders happening in Memphis? And the first thing they'll tell you is, well, Memphis is being defunded. Money isn't being put into Memphis. And it's like, well, what you expect? At some point, you gotta do some policing and some funding on your own. Whatever scraps you can get together before you expect other people to put money into it. Like we seen what happened with Detroit and a few other places when their mayors got in office and the crime dropped tremendously. We need to see stuff like that more. And I'm not saying it's easy, obviously, but before we start asking for these people to put money into these cities, you gotta do some legwork on your own. Like, I remember when I think it was in Detroit also, when a group of black men got together and said Detroit 100, and they said, we'll do it our damn self. We will patrol the streets. We will do, you drug dealers got to go. You gamers got to go. We'll help you get jobs. If you don't want to do it, you got to go to another city. Like, you got to push these people out. I don't care if they 15. Them and the parents got to go. They got to go. But this one was sad because it's just, and this is also in New York, was obviously brought back that case of the little Spanish kid who got cut up and stabbed up by those other Mexican kids a few years ago. That was 2016, 17, when he was chased down and stabbed up out of that store. And like, what is going on in New York? But see, people also be calling New York a third world country at this point. We're not gonna get into that part. We're gonna try to stick to what we've been saying. But man, I'm gonna end it with Umar again, man.
Some of them going, I'm done!
Some of them got to go. And then I'm gonna add this onto it, because I'm speaking about Detroit, Memphis, and these young kids doing all this trouble. Let me play this right here. This is off a podcast where she was asking for the Red Dogs to come back. Let me show this.
I think that the Red Dogs that y'all knew should come back, but I think that I'm dead the fuck serious, because these kids are different.
Bro, said,
well, y'all had some type of fear that y'all would get.
You think niggas that wasn't a good fear though? I ain't gonna lie.
Something needs to happen. What the hell they gonna do as far as the kids, because parents don't give a fuck.
I think before we get to the youth Red Dogs, we could probably do maybe like a more controlled environment for them to hang out, like teen club, like something a little bit more controlled for them to be.
And every example of where violence is in proximity to violence, it's in the smaller percentage of the larger community, right? And historically, the government has used that smaller percentage as leverage to bring in militarized forces to police the entire community.
That's facts.
I hear what you're saying. That's why what you started with shit, we should just charge the parents. Just charge the parents. Charge the parents of somebody that killed a unarmed or uninvolved teen or anything like that before you say, yo, we about to send in or conceive some sort of police state over the youth. Fuck that.
Like, something needs to be done.
Right.
I'm not saying bring back the red dogs.
Right.
Because they was abusing their power. No, but I'm saying they need something of that nature because y'all was scared to go outside and do some dumb ass shit.
Now, this right here is the extreme of what I was talking about. When I said put people out of the community, I was talking about self-policing. I would never advocate for you to bring in militaristic police to the community. And also, I'm not going to miss the fact that the only reason why she would even want that to be implemented is because she thinks she wouldn't be impacted. Because the only when you talk about the red dogs, this is what she's talking about, obviously, right here. The Red Dog gang unit was criminal. I'm pretty sure y'all know about it. It was out of Atlanta. It was actually in a TV show. What's that show 50 Cent had that should turn trash by season 2? BMF. There was an episode in BMF when they was down in Atlanta and Red Dogs came and knocked them. There was a drug unit. They came and knocked them and got all the drugs and arrested everybody. And you saw how aggressive they were. They were beating the hell out of people, breaking bones. They didn't give a damn. Regina says never heard of them. Yeah, they were a big deal. As a matter of fact, you probably have heard of them. You remember the Memphis police killing that happened with what is his name? Tyrese Nichols. The woman who was in charge of that group was also in charge of the Red Dogs. That's the same woman. You see right here, critics say Miss Davis should have known the risk of sexualized street forces before she created a Scorpion unit whose members was charged in the Tyrese Nichols fatal beating. So she went from the Red Dogs in Atlanta to the Scorpion unit in Memphis. They actually have this whole thing right here.
The Memphis, Tennessee police chief and her connection with the city of Atlanta.
So we now know that Chief C.J. Davis worked for the Atlanta Police Department. This was during a time when a controversial task force called Red Dog was used. Now it's similar to the so-called Scorpion unit used in the Tyree Nichols traffic stop.
See, that makes sense though, because what was going on in Atlanta, high crime. So you created something to try and combat that. Memphis is dealing with high crime, so she went there and created the Scorpion unit. So she was trying to combat the violence with more extreme violence, which doesn't work. Even in these fictional stories, when you talk about superheroes, right? I can't remember what book it was or what movie it was. I think it was Batman. They were saying how when you introduce a person who goes around with high level technology to combat violence, it doesn't get rid of the violence. It just increases the level of technology on the criminal side. So if you're a police force that have the highest level artillery, you got bulletproof vests and all this stuff, you're wearing the boots, you got the shield mask on, it's not gonna make violence stop. It's gonna make the criminals get bulletproof piercing rounds. It's gonna make them become more. They're gonna be more of criminals. They're gonna have to go deeper into it. If you introduce superhero, you're gonna create a super villain. That's the point. Regina says, "Well, didn't know that either." So she revived an old system. Yeah, she went from the Red Dogs to the Scorpion unit, and it still didn't work because now this Scorpion unit beat on a man who wasn't doing nothing that deserved it. He wasn't a drug dealer, nothing. So instead of these police targeting the people who you would deem to be the ones that listen in the community you want to get rid of, they end up getting the average citizen, which is why you don't want a militaristic police force. So as I said earlier, I'm not going to skip past the fact the only reason she would even say this is because she's a woman and she think it probably wouldn't affect her. Because she said these kids, the youth, she's talking about the boys. And I'm not saying it ain't the young boys who are doing the crime in the gangs and stuff, obviously. But when you introduce this high police force into the community, it's going to really target the men and the boys, even the innocent ones. So there's a thin line. You got to be very careful with that. That's why I say I like what the Detroit 100 said, get out. We ain't going to send the police force after you. You just got to go. You got to get rid of these people. But yeah, I see people have been trying to come up with answers and ways to address these things for years, for decades. As the dude said earlier, he was like, hey, man, we could introduce... hold on. All right, my bad. He was trying to introduce stuff for young kids, but I don't know, man. Some of these things, they don't want to go to no teenage party. They by the time some of these young kids reach the age of 15, 16, they lived a long life already compared to, or at least they've had a lot of experience. They got a long list of things they've already been through. So going to some little teenage party, they're far removed from even wanting to do something like that. So we got to find a way, man. We got to find a way. All right, next up. Let's get to... Hold on. All right. I'll make sure that worked now. I was messing up. All right, I got this I want to play. Jasmine Crockett finally being normal. And when I saw this, everybody was saying the same thing, which is, if she would have carried herself like this the last year or two, she probably would have had much more success politically. And she would have had a much better image if she carried herself like this.
But I'm a whole lawyer. So I will potentially go back to practicing law. I'm engaged in conversations with some law firms about what that would look like. I want to be semi-flexible as it relates to the practice of law, because I absolutely want to get to this book.
Hey, man, get your money. The books. Get the money. It's funny how these politicians, how often they run straight to writing books, because it's so much money. It's so much easy money. But shout out to her, I guess. What we doing? Oh, I'm going to do a quick rundown of this here. I got to get out of here soon, too. Yeah, I'm kind of dragging along. Craig says, now she can go all out in helping the Latino. We'll see how that gets us. They didn't even vote for it in Texas. National Action Network Convention 2026. I mentioned the Kamala Harris clip last week, but I'm gonna run through some of the things said at this convention, because it obviously was it really was the Democratic convention. All they did was tell people vote Democrat. You shouldn't vote Republican. You shouldn't vote third party. You should have voted for Kamala Harris. Yeah, we know what it's really going to be about, obviously. But I'm going to play some clips from it and run down some of the things they said. Hold on.
There are times when we pass the torch, and Reverend Jackson, he often blushes about how Reverend Jackson mentored him. I have to believe, Reverend Al, that Reverend Jesse Jackson was awfully proud but awfully at peace, knowing that there was somebody to pass the torch to a new civil rights leader for America for these times such as these. Yeah, again, let's thank Reverend Al for taking the torch and being our civil rights leader for the United States of America. I love you, Rev.
You know, it's funny. These two Negroes trying to give themselves a title. Reverend Al Sharpton at the UN reparations vote said that Benjamin Crump was a Black America's attorney general. And now you got Benjamin Crump given the title of civil rights leader to Al Sharpton. These people got to know that. Come on, man. You can't give the title to each other. But I always ask that question. When was the last time do you think Black America truly chose a leader? Like really chose a Black man or woman, a Black man probably back in the day, who was chosen as a leader. Was it manufactured? Was it somebody put in front of you? It probably was. I don't even know if I could say it was Martin Luther King. If there was a campaign behind him, obviously there was certain organizations that promoted him. I can't really say Malcolm X as he was a part of the Nation of Islam. Maybe Fred Hampton, but because he had a lot of Black people that didn't agree with him either. Talking about Fred Hampton, even Malcolm and Mike and Martin, they didn't have a lot. They didn't have everybody Black supporting them. There were people who disagreed with their methods, but maybe Fred Hampton, maybe I don't know, man. I don't know. Chris is deplorable. Regina says never. It's unfortunate that might be the actual answer. Because even when you look at Fred Hampton, you know, all I got to say is he went to college at USC, didn't he? I think it was USC or UCLA, one of those. And we know that back in those days, what that college, had a very strong communist influence on that college. A lot of people came out of there. That's why the Panthers started in California, obviously. But I don't know if I can think of a Black leader who was truly organic, chosen, who just people just agreed with him and promoted him, told people about him word of mouth, and they just became a voice. I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's move on to another clip. Let me see what this is.
Racism presages fascism.
Oh, look at Mr. Wordsmith.
Racism presages fascism. Racism is a dry run for the fascist attempts to do it. We all Black now.
And if everybody... We all Black. And I remember a few years ago, me and Travis was talking about this on here. And I found out that Indians from India in the UK refer to themselves as politically Black. I didn't understand that. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? And I started hearing that in America from politicians like Jasmine Crockett and all these other people referring to minorities of any background as politically Black. They're getting rid of all identity. This is straight up Marxism, but you know.
He's Black. Why are we 40% of the homeless people in Los Angeles when we're only 7% of the population? Why are Black women 3 times more likely to lose their kids?
Black women are nearly 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than white women.
Who are these other people that you're talking about, Michael Eric Dyson? I'm trying to figure it out.
Shout out to Tim. Shout out to Tim Black. It's been crazy to see the turn he had to make too. The progressive side pretty much kicked him out because he was talking about race too much. Ain't that crazy? The progressives kicked him to the side because he talked about race too much. But then they'll call the Republicans or the right-wing people, they'll call them racist, you know. Anyway, what else we got? Let me see. I think this is the one that had all the clips together. Yeah. I could play this. This was the typical talking point, you know. They talk about immigration and ICE, and they start the whole "we're next."
So whatever is going on right now in our immigrant population, we should care about, one, because it is our neighbors, it is our family, it is our friends, it is those we work with, those we practice faith walk with. But we also, frankly, need to care because what is happening with them, we're next.
I'll keep saying it. You can't be next when you always have been. I want to show this one here, though. I'm going to jump to this one. That this is a harm of blackness, grouping the descendants of those who were brought to America by force and those who came by choice. Let me play this.
Every single person in this room is maybe 1 degree removed from someone who is a Black immigrant and someone who at some point in their life had a visa status that was a little wonky.
This was crazy. This woman said that every Black person is 1 degree separated from somebody who is a Black immigrant or had a visa status that was flunky. I have no immigrants in my family. Not one. My entire family has been in North Carolina and South Carolina for the past, at least, that's not how far back I went, not saying how far back it actually is, at least the last 120 years, my family has been in North Carolina and South Carolina. My entire family. I remember my brother's ex, his mother, she did a genealogy on our family. She's into that type of thing, looking back at history of our whole family to see where they've been, where they've traveled. And after a couple of weeks, my brother asked her, what did you find? What did you find about my family? Where they been? She said, oh, nothing. They just been there. They've been in North Carolina the whole time. They never left. It wasn't even interesting. We've been there only. I have no immigrants in my family. But see, that's what happened when you grew up in certain cities and have certain influence. You start to think everybody's an immigrant. I saw a whole discussion, a whole argument happen because a Black American asked a question. They asked a question. They said, where are Black Americans in New York? And it was a firestorm of so many immigrants from New York answering the question. Keep in mind, none of the Black Americans answered it. It was, at first at least, it was just a bunch of immigrants getting mad, saying it's trying to start a diaspora war for asking, where are the Black Americans in New York? Because they was assuming, I saw so many posts of them saying that growing up, I didn't meet a person who was Black. They grew up in New York, and they said I grew up and didn't meet a person who was Black American until I reached high school and college and went to college. How does that even happen? Y'all create these enclaves and separate yourself, and then you become delusional how much of the population you actually represent. Fred said they all just deplorable.
Some point in their life had a visa status that was a little wonky. That's what I mean when I'm especially talking about people who are undocumented Black people. Folks who have temporary protected status, TPS, folks who may have DACA, all these names and acronyms that are being thrown around. But I think we have to ensure that Black immigrants are treated as they are, which is central to democracy and not separate from it.
We're going to get to democracy later, too. We're going to talk about democracy. Regina said, no immigrants and no Africans neither from what we've researched. Yeah, if I'm saying, like, yeah, everybody in my family, I went back all the way to 1810, but I only got one name, so I don't really count that one name. But I went all the way back cleanly to the 1850s. I went all the way back to 1850s. Like, yeah, about 160 years, I know exactly where my family has been. We say it's probably just me, but it feels like the immigrants are just making shit up. Well, they're trying to, because of the reaction to political shift, as we always say, they're trying to save face and just go all the way full flat Blackness. I saw a person, it was a Jamaican man, and he was talking about how he lived in Spain. And how when he tells a Black person he lives in Spain, they go, aren't they racist in Spain? And he said, well, they're racist everywhere, including Black countries. And somebody that said, shut up, you just want a snow bunny. And he like, my wife is a Black Jamaican. And I immediately thought, what the hell is a Black Jamaican? Isn't that just a Jamaican? What's the point of putting Black in front of Jamaican? It's kind of implied when you say Jamaican. Same thing when you hear somebody say, I'm a Black African. Like, what the it's kind of implied what your race is based off of you being African. What is the point? They're making sure now that Black is, they anchoring everything about them in that, on that word Black now. Like, it's everybody is Black. As the old buddy just said, we all Black now.
And we has been discussed here today, poll taxes. You need to get your passport, all these things that we know the SAVE Act and other things are saying for people to vote. When we have TPS being stripped away, when we have every single Caribbean nation as of January this year being banned from the US in some shape or form, we're in trouble. And they're going after Black people, and they're trying to see how far can they go with us, who may be a more vulnerable population, to then exact that in the larger population. It's like in and out, because Black people in America have had stories to tell. So it's really important that we treat it as central to democracy, and that when we fight for all. We name what's true, we demand what we need, and we invest in the populations that we say we care about.
Sound good. Let me try to see. It sound good, I guess. Let me jump to this next one here. Hold on.
Here's the thing. What our priority is protecting our power. Because what you have just heard from Melanie Campbell is about how they're coming to try to take it because we are powerful. But they're coming in, I'm going to say 3 ways we are prioritizing as a coalition of over 240 national organizations. We are prioritizing the right to vote.
What that means is we are prioritizing the right to vote Democrat. And for immigrants to vote.
Trying to lie to
regardless of status.
Everybody and claim they're not trying to steal our rights to vote as they try to steal election. And we're making it plain. No, you can't. No, you won't. No, you don't.
I thought we weren't allowed to talk about stolen elections after 2020. When Trump went on that whole rampage of accusing y'all of stealing an election in 2020, y'all said that it was bringing distrust to the system and that he should stop because if people don't trust the system, everything will fall apart. Now y'all are back to saying that people can steal elections. Craig says, invest in the population we say we care about. Very interesting word. Exactly. Because now we ask the question, well, who is that population you care about? If I go to NAN, their website, they have a whole thing dedicated to women, immigrants, and then they'll just give you this blanket statement, black people. But then they also bring up black and brown, all that other shit. So who is the population you care about? It seems like what you're really saying is the population we deem valuable.
So I'm going to tell you something that's going to happen this week on that. How many of you, I know you all are working on it, but the SAVE Act, which should be called the Slave Act. Because when you have a master or a monarch, it's the same thing.
We're going to get a monarch soon, too.
And when you try to tell voters they should not have the power to vote unless they can prove their citizenship, when the state already proved it, and the Constitution gave the power to the state, and when at the same time they're coming for birthright citizenship.
Now, all 3 things she just said, you can tie to immigration. Ain't that crazy?
Birthright.
They're kind of telling you who she deems to be the population she wants to invest in.
Citizenship is what black people won because we fought the Civil War, demanded the end of slavery, and insisted that we were citizens.
See, this is the tricknology. Black Americans. See, this is why people be calling y'all tricksters. Because you're twisting language. You've tied Black American history and experience in this little diatribe you went on, this little soliloquy. You've tied Black American experience to immigrants. You've completely made it, just completely blurred the line on the difference. And in the courts, that's what they're trying to define. What is the difference? Every single organization that's dedicated to helping black people based off of race is being defunded. And they keep using the excuse because the Constitution says something cannot be done for another versus another because of race. That is discrimination. So it's obvious we need to go lineage-based. But because we can't go lineage-based because that wouldn't benefit immigrants, you don't want it. Because y'all think, this is what crazy part. I remember a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, remember around the time when they was doing the hot, like November, last November, December-ish, when they were really talking about the ICE deportations. They just forgot about that. They don't even talk about that no more. Remember when they were running around saying we're all American, South American, Central American, all the Caribbean countries, how we're all America. We're part of the Americas. We're American, right? That's their plan. You have a lot of people that look at politics and they look at the numbers and they say, all right, Black Americans represent 50 million people in population. They're 13, 14% of the population. And then they look at Jamaica. They look at Haiti. They look at all these other countries in Caribbean countries. They look at South America. And they say, if we can get those people to come here, if we can get that 50 million number, people that call themselves Black, we can call them Black, or at least minorities. If we can get that 50 million number to 80 million, to 100 million, they don't care that the politics don't mix. They don't care that the cultures don't mix. They just want the numbers. The problem is they wanted the Browns in too, the Mexicans, the Venezuelans, all those people. And the Browns get here and they vote for the Republicans. So that backfired. So now they want to get in the Caribbeans. They want to get in the Africans from the continent. They want that 50 million black number to just get bigger. They don't care if it destroys the culture. They don't care if it destroys any type of social order. They just want the numbers. That's all they care about. Virginia says blur the lines and did a switcheroo. Exactly.
That part. So when you hear Save Act, know it's Slave Act. Know that this is about coming for our power and knowing that we have prevented it from passing time and time again because we've worked together and asserted our power together. And we need you to continue to make those calls, speak it out.
We get what she's saying. She doing the trickery, whatever.
So whatever.
I already showed that one. What else we got? Oh, let me show this.
On discharge petition.
This is about the TPS for the Haitians. Extend TPS for Haiti. Once again, this is a politician, a black American politician who's talking about immigration.
On Thursday, the House will vote on a discharge petition to extend temporary protective status for more than 350,000 Haitian nationals living within the United States. The only reason this vote is happening is because 218 members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans, came together to force the issue of human rights, to force the issue of protecting our Haitian brothers, sisters, and siblings living in this nation. Florida is home to the largest population of Haitian immigrants in the country. Haitian TPS holders are a part of our communities. They are working legally, raising families, and contributing every day as our neighbors and our friends. We know that Haiti is going through something very singular and unique. What's going on in Haiti, you can't find an example or a parallel anywhere in the entire world. A humanitarian crisis, forcing families to return under these conditions would be dangerous, unjust, and need I say, evil.
You know, it's funny how there's never a solution or suggestion, should I say, for those people to go there and cause a change. I've seen people, as I said before, that's calling for America to intervene. I think that's crazy. That's crazy. You probably don't want that. But the fact that nobody has a plan to actually help Haiti versus just taking Haitians and bringing them into America, they don't seem like a solution. Because it seemed like to me, the only people you truly are going to want to keep into the country are the ones who you deem useful. So it's almost like you're trying to do this brain drain out of Haiti so that America's going to win anyway. They're just waiting for the numbers to plunge to a certain number. They're just waiting for them to get even more desperate, and they're going to go in and get what they want anyway. So regardless if you're on the Republican or the Democratic side, you're helping the end goal of what America probably is going to want to do with Haiti at some point. When one of these countries decide to step up and say, "Hey, what's going on in Haiti is crazy. We need to do something." The UN decides to do some type of vote or something. It's going to be America that's going to take the initiative and say, we'll do it. And they're going to go in there and take all the resources they want anyway. They're going to seize the power. They're going to plant some bullshit person at the top to try and run the country. Like, I don't think just bringing these people to America and letting them stay is going to solve the problem of Haiti. That's just not going to do it. And tell you the truth, sending billions to Haiti ain't do it because they didn't get money. Y'all stole the money anyway. Why isn't that talked about? The Hillary Clinton Foundation and where that money went. Y'all gonna get to that at some point, or?
Armed groups control large parts of the nation, the country. Access to food and medical care and basic security remains deeply unstable. Early last year, I went to a detention facility in the state of Florida called Baker, and I sat down and had one-on-one conversations with many of the people being held there. Most of them were Cuban and Haitian. And I spoke to one Haitian gentleman who literally broke down in tears in front of me because he was so scared that he was going to be sent back to Haiti that same week. He told me he didn't think he would survive because he has no family there and because of the unstable conditions. This is what we're sending people back to. These are our neighbors. These are people who are part of our communities, our nurses, our caregivers, the people taking care of the most vulnerable people in the United States of America. And you're telling me that you want to force them back to a country where many of them fear for their lives? It's unjust.
Yeah, but it's not a solution. That's not a solution to the problem. Hold on.
So I'm glad.
I want to show this too. Hold on, let me. Yeah, here we go. I want to show Al Sharpton what he had to say about. He talked about reparations, and he also talked about that non-violence talk that been called a punk. Let me play this.
So I'm glad that people are here. Let me say, in terms of our report for the year, and then we're going to go on with the program. Our young people are rehearsing, getting ready for this afternoon is our youth day. I heard somebody talk about young people that tell them to just stay around. They're going to see two people, afternoon, all of the youth in there. And I don't know, but you get provocateurs, because anybody that is talking to somebody younger than them holding the mic, then you know that they paid agents. And if you're in the room, if you don't like me saying that, I'll say it again. Because you cannot get reparations without putting people in office that's going to pay them. So talk that ignorance somewhere else. You know, people talking about we have been for all of our existence fighting for reparations, made every candidate pledge to it. You cannot get reparations unless you elect folk that's going to pay it. Who you going to pay yourself? So you can't, on one hand, say, don't vote for everybody, they racist, but I want reparations. Who going to pay you? So either you paid or you stupid or both.
What up, Keeper?
I mean, I don't see nobody standing up. I didn't see whoever it was, but
he said you have to vote for somebody who's gonna give it to you. And you say you make candidates agree to it when the ones that you support at least. But every candidate that's gotten a real chance to get in office, to have real influence, has came out and said they don't agree with it. Obama, Kamala Harris, Biden, they all said it. Who else Democrat you gonna bring up? Clinton? Now all of them was against it. So we're telling you both it's the same thing, and this ain't working. This system ain't working. There needs to be a change. And you keep saying no, the status quo, you just keep doing this. At some point, it'll work, I guess. It's supposed to work at some point.
Yeah, okay. I was at college, and the guy stood up talking about, I don't believe in all that nonviolent stuff. Y'all need to get out the way and da-da-da-da, and da-da-da-da. And all you punks, I said, hold it with the punk stuff. I said, because you got one punk out. You go to the second punk, you're going to get the best nonviolent whipping you ever got in your life.
So you non-violent to the whites, but you'll whoop a black man ass. All right.
I'm not scared of the folk we fighting. I ain't scared of the folk we fighting with. So let's be clear about that. Let me say that
that's pretty much all he had to say. Him saying he'll put hands and foot on somebody and tell you to continue to vote the same way. Now this. Campaign 2028, Senator Cory Booker and former VP Kamala Harris speak at Michigan Democratic lynching
like it is. After our primaries and Hillary Clinton was our nominee, there was some people, not all people, not even most people, some people said, well, I don't like her. I don't agree with everything she says. I saw it with Kamala Harris. There were too many people that say, I don't agree with her on everything. I mean, 90 out of 100, I agree with her, but those 10, I can't do it. Well, you may disagree with her on 10% of her views, but you let someone get in office who you disagree with on everything. You let somebody get in office who is locking up our children. You let somebody in office who's taking away our health care. You let somebody in office who's taking away workers' rights. You let somebody in office who got rid of the Department of Education.
You know, when you see stuff like this, you wonder, who is he talking to? Are you talking to black people? Are you talking to just the centrist voters who didn't want to vote for her? Why do you assume the people who, first off, are saying that people only disagree with 10% of her policies is crazy. That's not true. But also this assumption that people who didn't vote for Trump would have automatically voted for her. This system don't work. Well, I get it. It's a beating a dead horse at this point. It's not worth it. People been trying to get people to look at this system and not just a two-party system for the last 100 years, and it just ain't gonna work. People just stuck in their ways. They scared to step outside of what's the obvious, and it's gonna continue to be this circle. But I did notice him bringing up Kamala Harris and comparing her to Hillary Clinton. I said it last week. That's a bad thing. He is very much compared to Hillary Clinton because they have the same impact on their support when they speak. It goes down. So you probably shouldn't have compared her to Hillary Clinton. But also that was mainly about him wanting you to vote for a woman against Donald Trump. That's what that mainly was about. But while they're speaking about that, I want to get to this quickly. A crime that destroys black wealth while New York looks away. Deed theft has been a big thing going around. It's apparently an even bigger deal in New York. In their argument I talked about earlier, where a person was asking where are the black Americans in New York, and people was calling it a diaspora war. One of the things they said people should be talking about is deed theft happening in New York to a lot of black Americans, where their homes, a lot of fraud is going on with deeds, and their homes have been taken right from them. I'm gonna show some examples of this right here. Opinion. You see here, Hochul must act as deed theft pushes New Yorkers out of their homes. Home ownership cannot be left on housing justice. Homeowners deserve protections, and governor has the power to stop displacement now. Let me play this here.
These guys are trying to scam my boy out his property. Look, it's the second time.
And you know who's guilty of it? I'm glad there's a spotlight being put on these motherfuckers too. I saw the one in Jersey. I've seen a couple in New York. They're pretty much doing the same thing they be doing in Palestine, where they just go on somebody's land, kick them off, plant a flag, and say it's their land now. They live in New York. Most of them, they live in New York. The early 20s, mid 20s. They take a trip to Israel or Palestine. They go to the Palestinian land, take some land, put a house on it, and that becomes their vacation home when they leave from New York, back and forth. They're trying to do the same thing in New York now.
I'm trying to get him. Hey, Daniel. Trying to scam.
I came to do inspection of the house.
Ain't no inspection. You don't own the house. Get out of here. You don't own nothing.
You know this is a court order.
Like court order.
Guys must vacate.
No, get out of here. Fake ass court order. Look at this nigga trying to scam.
Craig says this is the 5 boroughs was promised to them 3,000 years ago. Bruh, in the last month, so many of these Jewish scams have been exposed. The food stamps, welfare. How I saw a story of a black dude said a Jewish dude taught him how to pretty much dupe the system with housing. How you buy a house with a loan, and you get your wife to rent the home, but you're not married to her. You get her to rent the home, but then you use whatever welfare she's on to pay the rent to a home that you now own completely because you got it through a loan. It's literally fraud. So welfare, stealing houses, fraud in the system. They're taking advantage of every single loophole they can think of.
This guy's been here for years. Get out of here, bro.
And what's crazy is he has a man tell him to his face, we know you're scamming. And he just like, David, here. He's still trying to, he don't even care. He's still trying to complete the scam. And they already told him, we know what you're doing, bro.
Get out of here. He's born here. Get out of here. When they call the cops, you came, the cops came, they did nothing. Get out of here. Yo, oh yeah. I don't know if you know this guy's trying to scam. We not playing over here. We not playing. We don't give a fuck about that little fake ass hat. We knock his fucking hat off. We not playing. You heard me? We not playing.
See, this is another problem. They have the cojones to do this in the 70s, 80s. Niggas have allowed, there used to be this thing where I know a lot of black people didn't like this idea of being feared, being considered violent, how other races, particularly white people and stuff, they saw black people as these violent beasts, these thugs. But you know what it also gave? Distance. Certain things they just wouldn't try on you. Do you think this man tries to pull this scam off in the 70s? Do you think he goes to, I don't know if this neighborhood is necessarily a black neighborhood. Do you think this dude goes to a black neighborhood and tells these people, you must vacate your home? He would have got punched on down the street. But see, the difference is so many of these neighborhoods and these cities have been gentrified so much that they feel comfortable just walking through your neighborhood with their dirty Air Force Ones and they pigtails on their sideburns. They don't mind just walking through your neighborhood. They don't feel threatened by you anymore because you ain't got the same energy. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. It's just something I noticed.
I understand. I'm trying to play. I'm trying to get him the fuck out of here before he gets himself hurt out here, you heard? We don't give a fuck about that hat, you heard? We don't give a fuck about that hat. We're not this.
I want to show this one now. Let me play this one.
Out of their properties has been a pervasive problem for a few years now. And now this group is rallying outside the governor's office demanding that she do something about it.
My father and I worked really hard. We scraped and we saved and we purchased our home legally and legitimately.
Rachel Cyprian was shaking mad as she spoke with us outside the governor's office about the devastating impact of her 15-year fight to reclaim ownership of her Brooklyn home following deed theft.
It leads to homelessness. It leads to depression. It leads to all sorts of failures. Here we are, black people, in this country now for over 400 years, and we're constantly starting from square one.
Deed theft is when a property's title is transferred away from the rightful owner, generally due to deceptive or predatory tactics. Frequently, the targets are seniors and communities of color.
What do we want? And when do we want it?
Now, Brooklyn City Councilman Chio Say is pressing the governor to put a moratorium on evictions where there's a deed theft case pending or being investigated.
We are pleading to the governor, to the head of the state, to do right by all of us, to do right by black New Yorkers, and to do your job.
During the moratorium, Chio Say and other elected leaders are demanding legislative fixes, like more support for homeowners in eviction court, special investigative units inside district attorneys' offices, a public database of shell companies associated with deed theft, and more.
You know what's even crazier? The fact that this doesn't already exist. How do you have a whole system and you forgot that all the criminality you have to deal with, the white collar criminality, and you forget it's just this you just forgot. It is missing component of, oh yeah, people that steal and trick the system through fraud, through deed theft. We probably should have something in place where you can't just tell somebody they have to leave because a court order said they got to leave. Maybe we should have investigation things in place where things have to be properly done to make sure this is on the up and up.
In response, a spokeswoman for the governor's office did not mention an immediate moratorium, but said the governor has taken a number of steps to push back against deed theft. Quote, no New Yorker should be cheated out of the opportunity to keep their home, which is why Governor Hochul has proposed $40 million in her state budget for the Homeowner Protection Program, and why she has led the way in enacting strong protections to empower homeowners and crack down on illegal deed theft. But advocates say they will press on for more reform and that immediate moratorium.
Moratorium now! Moratorium now!
Governor Hochul, it is now at your door.
Yes. Right.
What are you going to do to keep black families in their home? That's it. That's all I want to hear about.
Between 2014 and 2023, there have been roughly 3,500 complaints of deed theft in New York City alone. So we will continue following these proposals and continue to follow up with the governor's office and councilman's office as this moves forward.
I had a story like 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, with in New Jersey, how they said the city council was majority Jewish, and it was defunding their entire city and sending it to the schools dedicated to the Jewish students, the private schools. So they was taking all of the city's money for funding their city and their schools and stuff, and sending it to their schools. And it's based off of their belief, their spiritual belief, that book they follow. That is righteous. You're supposed to treat your people over others. You don't care what happened to everybody else. I just wish we adopted this mindset. But you have to have power and influence to actually go through with it. You can talk a lot, but do you have the power to carry it? So weird times and unveiling times we're living in. Exactly. And it's funny because, we know how social media work. That means it's pretty much very wide open and public that these Jewish people are going around stealing people's houses through deed theft. And they're still doing it. So now when you see these people walk up to you talking about some type of court order and you got to leave, they know they probably scamming and they still doing it. Because what you going to do? What you going to do? let me show this one here. Let me see. Hold on.
Notorious criminal Sanford Solney being convicted of stealing 20 properties in Brooklyn and Queens. Though advocates say this number is actually in the hundreds, he was given concurrent sentences for both of 2.5 to 7 years in prison. And he was not ordered to pay any restitution in Brooklyn. And in that sentencing hearing, he spoke about sending his money, presumably all stolen wealth, to Israel.
So he stole your homes, gained wealth, and he sent it to Israel. But you know what's anti-Semitic? For you to point it out. If you point this out, you're anti-Semitic. If you point out that he's clearly showing loyalty to another, first off, he's committing a crime. Two, he's showing loyalty to another country. He's sending money back there. If you say either of those things, they'll call you anti-Semitic.
But 3 months later, the repeat offender is out. On an ankle monitor, they say.
This man. Shout out to this dude, but he go off the rails anytime the FBA ADOS stuff is mentioned. I'm sorry, I got to mention that. Some of this stuff, I think he lives in New York. He exposes some stuff that I find interesting, but whenever that ADOS stuff or FBA gets brought up, he just go off the Richter. You know how you got that Trump derangement syndrome they was talking about? A lot of ADOS FBA derangement syndrome. When it comes up, it just fries their brain and they just go into conspiracy world and nothing is real and it's all bots. All right, bro. It's all the CIA all of a sudden. Let me see this.
It has my house.
Oh, this is an example.
I've been up all night doing research. I cannot find who these people are. I can't find out who owns this.
These people are in her house. They got in her house. They lied and said she was dead. Took her deed and committed fraud. Moved into her house. And now she can't. They're not letting her in.
LLC knows I'm alive. This is what I'm
do all her stuff out of the house.
I'm going through right now. Someone by the name of Ryan Layton filed for a deed transfer saying that he was my brother and that I was deceased. I was actually alerted by all of this by my neighbor because I work over the road. So my neighbor alerted me when he seen U-Hauls pulling up, removing everything out of my house. The police were called out. However, these people had documents together. They had their lives together. They had a team. Everyone was saying they didn't know. They were hired by someone. The police did make the people leave, but no one was arrested. So I reached out to a detective to see why was no one arrested for trespassing and burglarizing my home. The detective was easily able to verify that I am the owner because it's all public record. He pulled it right on up and he realized that it was something going on with fraud. He reached out to Eagles Consulting, who they are claiming that they bought the home from the Ryan Layton, and explained to him that this was a scam. At this time, I'm thinking this company will back off due to the detective letting him know that he has no ownership over the home. The owner of the company was actually supposed to meet with me and the detective, so I came here for the meeting. The guy was a no-show, and he stopped answering the detective's calls. After that, he filed an eviction from me and got me removed from my property. This is the guy that has my house. I've been up all night doing research. I cannot find who these people are. I can't find out who owns this LLC. He knows I'm alive. He knows what's going on. He does not care. He will not stop. He took everything from me and my kids, and now he's taking my home. I went to the courts filing a motion to set aside, and the judge refused to sign it. He said it's out of his jurisdiction at the time. I did have all of my documents, my deed. I had proof of the fraud. I had my ID, my birth certificate. I had everything. I've been reaching out to the judge, the police, detectives, the county. I called the DA, financial investigation, financial crimes unit, the fraud unit. I emailed and I called the news station. I even reached out to Texas Eviction LLC, the one who filed the eviction on me. I called the attorney general, still haven't talked to them. I have called just about everyone that I can possibly call. My back is against the wall. These people have bullied me and cornered me, and now I'm just fighting for my life, fighting for my kids' future. I'm fighting, and I just thank you guys so much again, TikTok, for all of you guys.
Imagine that. Imagine you calling everybody you're supposed to do, having everything in order, and they just no help whatsoever. I will say this though, and it was one of the solutions that people have. In order to stop this from happening, I'm not saying she should do this. She shouldn't throw her life away. Hopefully this blew up on TikTok enough. I don't know how old this is. Hopefully it blew up on TikTok enough to bring attention to her story, and she was able to get some things in order. Somebody gotta one of these people. Somebody gotta boom one of them. They're getting too bold in what they're doing. To take this woman's stuff and just throw it on the street, walking through her house. Her camera is still in the house. Just acting like it's yours, like it's your castle now. It's just crazy. This is a woman with children. At some point, somebody got to take the sacrifice and boom one of these people. You gotta put fear in these people who are committing this type of deed. Somebody got to get killed. I'm sorry. Somebody got to get hurt. It got to be dealt with violently. It got to be very public, all over the news. You got to let it be known. It got to be a warning to them, because they're going to keep doing this because it's easy money for them. They can just steal people's shit. So, yeah, boom. 3 of them things. Make sure. Double tap. We got next. Yeah, I'll show this because I got to get out of here in a second. What time is it? Actually, 1 o'clock. Shit, I get out here by 2. I got to be going by 2, but I should be done by then. Let's see.
Has told a federal judge that being forced to not discriminate against Black people violates his First Amendment rights. I'm not exaggerating. That's the actual lawsuit. Your entire attention is on a Chris Brown and Usher stadium tour right now.
By the way, y'all interested in that? I see it was a kind of a big deal with Usher and Chris Brown announced this tour, and it was everywhere. And it is funny how when something like that is announced, all Black people say it's a distraction. I don't know if it has anything to do with this, but yeah.
Meanwhile, Elon Musk is in federal court deciding whether his AI can reject you for your home, your job, and your doctor. This is why we're always missing at the table. The media pushes the concert, and while you're trying to figure out tickets you cannot afford, somebody is in federal court making decisions about your life.
This ain't surprising. AI is racist. It's been racist. Elon Musk fighting for it to continue to be racist. It's like, okay, I'm not saying we should be not caring about it, but these systems are already configured by them. It's already racist. Craig said, hell no. Keeper said, I'd love to go. Hey, man. I mean, just on a 2-dimensional, it's impossible for it to be a bad show. I mean, regardless of what you think about either one of them, obviously I'm a fan of the music. It's impossible for it not to be a good performance unless they just absolutely just fuck it up. Funny enough, because when it first got announced, I saw obviously a lot of women reacting to it. They were saying how they're gonna have to sell their houses and stuff to afford the tickets. And it made me say, like, damn, in this economy, is it worth going on tour at this point? I mean, obviously for them it is, because it's gonna sell. The question is, are people as broke as they say? Is it just jokes? Or is stuff really that bad where it's like, even joking like that is kind of funny to me. You gonna sell your house? Like, because I know that's a joke, but it's just the desperation I saw from people saying, let it be known they need time to raise the money and stuff. Like, man, it's rough out here, bro. Chris says, I look at both of them, I just don't want to go. Oh yeah. Look, man, I see a lot of people was trying to say this for the women. No, if a lot of women gonna be there, that means it's for the men too. So what the hell are they talking about? Usher and Chris Brown on tour, them stadiums gonna be packed with them. So it's not a bad place to go at all as a straight man. Believe that. It's very, very pro straight man. Let's just say that. But yeah, the racist AI thing. We already know what Elon knows. Elon is still complaining about South Africa not being allowed to bring his company to South Africa because it has to have a certain amount of Black people on the board, and he's complaining about that. And it's like, well, they have a system in place to make sure y'all don't do what you did back then. You can't be mad at it, especially considering the history of your family. The hell you mean? Of course they ain't gonna let your ass come there and just reign over them. Like, hell out of here. Let me run through this now. A little bit of geopolitics. I ain't had nothing to say about this in a minute. Let me just run through this. Trump touts uranium deal as Iran vows to stockpile will never leave the country. Obviously, they're supposed to be opening up the Strait of Hormuz, been blocked or whatever, trying to get that money. President Donald Trump said on Friday that the U.S. would work alongside Iran, using a lot of excavators to recover Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium and bring it to the United States. Iranian foreign minister spokesman said, however, reiterated that Iran would never give up that stockpile, which he described as as sacred as Iranian soil. Iran maintains it is not seeking nuclear weapons to claim disputed by the U.S. and Israel. Of course they did. The U.S. and Iran continue behind-the-scenes talks as the 2-week ceasefire is set to expire next week. This is the crazy world we live in, right? Like, war is always strange. Like, you mean to tell me we can bomb people and kill people, and that the people who supposedly are the people in charge can just stop doing it for 2 weeks and then start back doing it again? Like, modern war is silly. It's just stupid. Like, back then, you start war, we at war. Like, goddamn it, ain't no negotiations. There's gonna be a winner and a loser. Because the only people who are harmed in this is the citizens, the regular people who getting bombed all over the place, whose property has been destroyed. What the hell you mean a ceasefire for 2 weeks? What are we doing? Either go to war or don't. But anyway, EU spied on Orban for years, former Slovakia minister. I'm only bringing this up because Ukraine ain't talked about at all no more. No one gives a damn. It's still going on with Russia, by the way. But the president or former head of prime minister of Hungary, who was seemingly more pro-Russia, they got rid of him because they want the EU to be able to give more resources and aid to Ukraine. So they want to continue to resource this bullshit war so that they can continue to pull off their shenanigans. Which is funny because they just had a bad winter or whatever, a couple winters. They struggle with resources already. You haven't done the harm to Russia's economy you thought you would do, and you're still continuing this because you still trying to hide something or trying to bring something to fruition in Ukraine. But yeah, more resources being wasted. But hey, at least it's theirs this time. At least so far. Trump ain't giving them as much as he was, I guess. What else? Yeah, so they got him out of office. He lost in the landslide. So now they're going to use that to continue to put money in Ukraine war. What is this? How to fill a war? EU eyes new front and green agenda. EU still pushing that green bullshit. Gina says, Dem folks stack they coins in Ukraine. Nothing else to talk about. Exactly. Got their money right. And now you can't tell them nothing. EU and NATO officials fear that European armies would be unable to conduct a major military operation such as a hypothetical war with Russia, and that Brussels continue to claim could be imminent. Without a secure supply of fossil fuels, EU lawmakers and NATO officials met this week to assess how a reliance on oil affects military readiness, according to Eurocrative. The proposed solution looks distinctively like a notorious Brussels brainchild conceived in strict adherence to the EU's green agenda. It intended to be borne by the bloc's national governments. So they're trying to push the green energy even into their war product, which means they already got this in place. They're just making it public. But the EU can't even defend itself for real. Like we've seen in just the last couple of years how they've spoken, how things have been talked about, how even Trump spoke about the EU. They're not that. EU is more of a backup force for America. America is the bully. America's the protector. They're the ones with the military. EU is just kind of meant to be backup for them. You know, you meant to just, watch our six basically. And they're still talking about this hypothetical war with Russia that it wouldn't benefit them at all to do. It's not benefiting them, this Ukraine thing. They're still doing it, so I guess they don't care. All right, next up. What time is it? Hold on. All right, it's 1:19. I got a little bit more time. All right. Burkina Faso military leader Chador I forgot to say the damn name now. I had the name down, forgot. Says forget democracy. He reneged on his promise to hold elections, has since scrapped political parties in the country. So everybody immediately started calling him, obviously, trying to take control of the country without a democracy. They're trying to call him He went rogue basically. Ibrahim, that's his name. Burkina Faso's military leader Ibrahim says that people need to forget about democracy just 3 months after his government dissolved all political parties in West African nation. But I want to play this clip. I still got it. I'm gonna get to the clip. Now, in this comment about democracy, this ain't the first time somebody has said this outside of the West. Democracy, America has been able to export this concept of democracy through two ways, obviously. They've been able to force it, going into your country, invading, destabilizing your country, kicking out the leader, and planting somebody else in power and calling it a democracy, right? They've been doing that throughout the Middle East, South America for decades. Even Europe, they used to do it in Europe too, but particularly since probably the mid 20th century, probably South America, Africa, and the Middle East have been the main ones to get the real target of that. So they've been able to do it through force. Then they've been able to do it through soft power. Back then it was, we're going to send missionaries to your country. We're going to preach Christianity. We're going to preach, we need to feed the kids and women's rights, feminism. We're going to find those ways to get into your country and have influence over your culture and softly push your culture a certain way to a point where they ask for, quote unquote, a Western democracy. And then there's the new way they've done it, which is social media influence. Our internet is in your country. So our citizens are interacting with yours. And for obvious reason, America being the media capital of the world, have had a heavy influence on foreign countries. That's why you hear people throughout Africa, particularly West African countries, especially in like South Africa, where people that's in foreign countries have become westernized. They become normalized certain aspects of American culture, what's normal. And there's been plenty of people that's trying to block it. One of the things that kicked off this thing with Iran is the loss of connection that Iran had for a little bit to the internet. They were accusing them of sabotaging their citizens and killing their citizens or whatever. So America, the West in general, definitely wants everybody to be connected to the internet because it is a soft power influence. As a matter of fact, you look at stuff like this, you're talking about Syria. That was one of the ways they did it through propaganda. The former president of Syria was accused of Assad. Remember him? He was running Syria for all that time, and then they said that he gassed his own citizens. And then you had people like the Gray Zone that came out and debunked it multiple times, saying it was not true. It was fake. These are all hired actors. Then they got tired of playing, and they just invaded and made Assad run to Russia. And now they got a new president starting last year. So they got tired of Assad being the villain, and they just, all right, we done. Kick him out. And now they have a democracy. Now it's a real democracy, as they're called. It's no longer a regime. Talk about being so arrogant to refer to another country's leadership group as a regime. It's illegitimate. They did the same thing with Venezuela. Again, went in that country and got rid of their leadership, the husband and the wife, the president and his wife, in 40 minutes. 40 minutes, gone. It's illegitimate. We don't respect him as your president. Choose somebody else. All right. What we get? Hold on. This right here. What 2 centuries of U.S. interventionism tells us about regime change in Iran? See, when they use that term regime, it's hilarious. Although they do refer to Trump's administration, and this is American media. They refer to him as a regime as well. So I guess they're keeping it consistent with who they deem an enemy. I want to play this. This is a speaker. I forgot his whole name. I know Kim something. I don't forgot his name all of a sudden. He spoke about the idea of democracy, Western democracy not working in certain Asian countries, Philippines and stuff like that. And how countries like China, Singapore, which is what he was a part of, Singapore, how they was able to build their country from a third to a first world country, not using the democratic system because it doesn't work. He made the argument that the reason why the democratic system worked in America is because it was an underpopulated country that was trying to get away from a monarch. And I always ask people the question, why do you think they were trying to get away from the monarch in England? Like, why do you think they were, he was taxing the people? No, why were they sent to America in the first place? What were they going from? What do you think they were doing? There were race wars going on in Europe, and they were trying to spread out. They weren't just explorers that were curious about the world. they were trying to find new land where they can exist. They were trying to create an ethno-state to get away from a certain group of people. I'll just say that because people get kind of touchy when you mention who those people are. But the same reason why you had Benjamin Franklin came out and sent a letter and said, you know, we don't want the people amongst the stars to see the browning of America. We don't want these Swarthies and Tawnies to rule over us the same way we see throughout Africa and Germany and many other European nations. And you say, well, who's the Swarthy and the Tawny? We've been through that already, so we know. So they were trying to escape something, and they was able to build a system on desperation and getting away from another power. So they had a certain level of unifying beliefs, right? And they became an ethno-state. They tried to become an ethno-state. Let me play this.
The Philippines has an American-style constitution, one of the most difficult to operate in the world. There is a complete separation of powers between executive, legislature, and judiciary. The Americans wrote this constitution in 1787 in Philadelphia. They wanted a weak executive president. Having suffered at the hands of King George III of England.
Yeah, look up King George and Queen Charlotte.
They wanted the opposite of a strong monarch. But you are a developing country. And developing countries faced with disorder and underdevelopment needs strong, honest executive government. A U.S.-style constitution for the Philippines failed long before Marcos.
Speak on it. What up, Will? What up, Honorable? What up, y'all?
The system worked in America because of a superabundance of resources and riches in a vast, underpopulated continent. I do not believe that Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, or Singapore could have succeeded as they have done if they had to work under such a constitution.
So as he said, America's founding was built off of trying to get away from a monarch. They had overabundance of resources and an underpopulated population. So that's why democracy was able to work for them. And then you have to have a trustworthy government. You have to think long term. You can't think about the immediate. And unfortunately, a lot of particularly African countries even, they suffer from this, situation where they have the resources, they just haven't been able to actually produce them on their own. So they rely on other countries to do it. I remember these stories you hear people talk about when they go over there and do these missionaries over there to Africa. And, they tell them, hey man, they don't have a certain they're industrial obviously, but they don't have the capitalist mindset that here in America, even Black Americans, we automatically have just being here. So when we see certain things, we put two and two together and, hey, we can make money off of this. Like it's just a certain mindset where while they don't really have that as much there. So when you see people with influence over there, particularly when you get into politics, the way they get money, no offense, is, selling out. That's the only way they can see it. I'm going to become a politician and I'm willing to give up resources from my community, my country, to benefit me and my particular family. And they're okay with just being the richest person they're okay with being the richest person in the poorest country. They're okay with that. And that has some level of, that has kind of existed somewhere, some places in America where you have Black Americans that gain certain influence in politics, whereas mayor or some level of politics in America where they begin to just do what's best for their line in their pockets and to keep power. That's why you see people that's 60, 70, 80 years old here and they still want to be in power. They still want to be the person that's making the decisions. It's like, man, go sit down. Like, what are we doing? And that's just not a Black thing. That's in general. We saw Pelosi finally step down. We saw, what's the other dude named? The Turtle. They stayed in office. They were 80, 90 years old. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? He was there scamming too. Well, I didn't want to just throw scamming on him, but it's true. But yeah, the system can't work in a place where your government is too busy focusing on trying to make money, trying to gain influence. They're not thinking long term. At some point when you're in position of power, you have to understand, I'm probably not, me in my generation are probably not going to benefit from this. It probably won't really be a big benefit until 3-4 generations from now, but it'll be better for our people. Look at China. China in the 80s, 70s, 80s was no better than anywhere in Middle East or Africa. They were a pretty poor country. And they said at some point in the 90s, we'll be the world's workforce. We'll let them send their products to us. We'll do all the work for cheap labor, and we'll become America's America or Europe. We'll make all their product. That's where since the 90s, everything you own, you look underneath it and it said made in China. Because they said we'll be the world's workforce. Fuck it. And it's dug them out of being a third world country. Now you see these videos of China, man. China, Singapore, a lot of these Asian countries, they're extremely advanced, especially when it comes to like transportation and just certain convenient things they have. And people like to compare it to America, and we still using a train system from the damn early 1900s, but it is what it is. We got here. Oh yeah, gotta get to this. I saw this video a few weeks ago too, where it's this British, I call him a British scholar, and he spoke on the America has no such thing as slavery. And as time goes on, it's amazing to me how people outside of Black America sound more and more like white people when they speak on the politics and the plight of Black Americans. How everybody tries to absolve themselves of any harm and any influence that led to any detrimental impact it had on Black America. So in this first video, I'm offended her, slavery in Africa wasn't that bad. It wasn't as cruel, right? And then he flat out said slavery isn't an American thing. Let me play this first. Non-Human Media posted this. Let me play this. Hold on.
5 of them. I had this beautiful necklace of chevron beads. These were the most valuable of the beads used to buy people. One
beads, some damn beads.
Bead was often sold for one person. These were Venetian chevron beads. And in the finest altars that I've seen in Yoruba land, I've seen maybe 4 or 5 of them strung together. My necklace has about 30 of them with lion's claws in between them. And so I look at that and I say, oh my God, what a beautiful thing. But what a terrible history it comes out of. So that's struggle right within me and right within the goddess Yemoja. And she's my goddess, by the way. This particular interpretation of her might be special to me. But everybody agrees, every god can be terrible or tender.
Well, if you listen to follow anything biblically, a god is supposed to be all encompassing, so that's not supposed to be a shock. But now I want to play this doctor, this scholar, what he said about slavery. Hold on,
we be clear about these things, right? And even when we talk about slavery on the African continent, slavery happened it wasn't the same thing. African slavery is much more like serfdom, which is in Europe for a long time. Like, you still had rights, you still could be free, you still, in many ways, a part of the family. It wasn't that dehumanizing process. Because again,
the point,
is it possible to have rights and be humanized and you can still be sold? If I'm as a human being, I can be sold. Do I actually have rights?
About we started it, we were enslaved. We did not dehumanize ourselves. People acquired from other families, incorporated them.
Integration. The people forget it.
Okay. But chattel slavery dehumanized people, transformed people into cargo.
Are you sure we did not? We walked them in caravans, in chains and shackles from the north.
Go to that was the period of chattel slavery. Chattel slavery. Okay.
Are we going to talk about the fact that even in Congo, when Leopold called for the killing of all those people, who did it? They didn't send European soldiers in there to do that stuff, committing cannibalism and stuff. Who was it that did those things? At some point, you can't keep pointing the finger at that people told us to do it. It's like, have some agency, have some, goddamn. All right, now I want to play this one here. Hold on.
there is no such thing as American slavery. Britain controlled America for the slave trade in America for 150 years before independence. There was slavery in America.
People said when I hear them talk, I know that video you're talking about. When I hear them talk, I hear, "Why are you gay?"
150 years of such thing as American slavery. Britain,
no such thing as American slavery.
Britain controlled America for the slave trade in America for 150 years before independence. There was slavery in America, 150 years of translated slavery in America before America was even a country. Even after America is then a country, the corporations, the companies who have the ties in slavery, the boats who are bringing in mostly British boats, the connections, people will move from the Caribbean to the Americas back and forth, that internal slave trade. The idea there is an American slave system is just not. It's not true. There was slavery in America.
America had a government. America was part of the slave. What are you talking about? America had a government. It had a system already. What are you talking about?
Slavery in the Caribbean. There was slavery in America, etc. They worked in different ways and different. They had their internal mechanisms, but they're not separate things. It's the same bloody things. The same people taking the same. You know what I'm saying? The idea you could separate this and that is nonsense. This is particularly for reparations claims. Lloyd's of London has been taken to court in America multiple times. And that's a British company in theory, right? So you say British is Lloyd's of London a British company? Not really, because nothing's British anymore. That's also the case back then, right? Like there was no way the slavery system could work on a national level. They were all collaborating, they were all engaged, all the hooks in.
America was a colony that was paying taxes to Britain. I don't understand, but my point I'm showing that is that's the same argument. That is the same argument we've heard in America from white people, which is that America did not start slavery. America ended it. So there is no need for any type of restitution. We ended it. We went to war to get separation from them. And then we, at some point, had an internal war where we ended it. That's their whole argument. So you're making the argument for them. Same thing as last week when I saw the Africans saying, it was Black Americans that owned slaves. It's like, well, that's the same thing that the white people say. So everybody's justifying themselves around the world. Let me show this too. This is another non-human meeting. He said, Negro Digest, September 1965. I want to show this here. What this says is, Africans did not come here to absorb into Negro subculture. And why should I, a foreigner, lose my head, figuratively and literally, in a civil rights fight? Africans do not consider themselves Negroes. So this is what he was written in the Negro Digest. They be posting a lot of stuff. They also posted a lot of newspaper articles when it showed a lot of Black Americans kicking Marcus Garvey's back in. Calling him all type of scammers and colluding with the KKK and stuff. These people have been pretty consistent, honestly. They haven't really said anything different. This should be the last video I want to show next. Hold on. Yeah.
Right.
It's the last video. What time is it? Yeah, this will be the last video. Mindset difference. Just completely different minds. Now, this dude right here, I saw a video of him a little while ago where he was talking about he was talking against the FBA ADOS stuff. He disagrees with it. It's stupid to him. He's a Pan-African. But he's talking to an African woman here. And the level of frustration he was showing was so obvious that her mindset was so different that he was getting frustrated. He never showed anger or anything. He never blew up on her, but you could tell he was frustrated and shocked. Like, what are you talking about? Jenna says, geez, these folks are chaos masters. I'm not a Negro. I'm not Black. Wait, voting time? Okay, I'm Black. I'm a Negro. And you Black Americans are African. Exactly. Let me play this.
I love white people.
I'm editing that out.
No, leave that there because
that's not allowed.
No, seriously, white people are good for us because we have so many things because of white people.
Oh my God.
I want you to know. Yes,
yeah, but they made us go do that stuff.
Why are you giving them credit when they can't?
Because that's how it was meant to be.
I think, and listen, I think this is a wonderful moment that we're going to have, and that's still going to get 100% edited out because the people would hate that. The people.
Like how, as in, okay.
But I was also very curious. I was also very curious here about the different views on colonization, different views, because I hold a resentment towards white people unless they personally show me that they're good. I believe they're bad because I've been proven by so many, by history, by the way things are going now, that things are good for them and bad for us. Things are good for them at the expense of us. At our expense, still now to this day. They're doing well because Africa is doing bad. Apple is doing well because fuck Congo. Saudi is doing well because fuck Sudan. Like all these other people are doing well because fuck Africa. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's I can't forgive them until that doesn't exist anymore. The history is so awful. I went to the museum today and I'm seeing pictures of what they were doing to Kenyan people, and it feels just like America. It feels just like you see pictures of harmful, just terrible scenes of babies, seeing people being shot, and these white people came over here like, I want this, I want that.
You see the rage that's leaking out of him? Now, I don't know if he's Black American, I don't know. But I always say when these type of conversations come up, and especially in a political conversation when you're talking about race or just history in general, there's a certain rage that leaks out a little bit, and some people can be afraid of it. That rage was very strong in the 60s and 70s. It was very loud. A lot of Black people were very vocal in public about that rage, and obviously when you go through the 80s and 90s, it quieted down a lot, but I found it funny how it was just leaking out of him.
That, and you still see where the white people were here. You still see it. They have everything. I want this, I want that, kill this person, take that, They pillaged. And how do you not resent them?
Her face is just, I don't care. She looks at him with sad eyes, like, I'm sad that you feel that way.
How do you not? You know what I mean? I just really I notice.
Now she's just bored.
Black Americans feel a way about white people generally. But Black folks in the Caribbean, Black folks in Africa, you guys are much more open to them in a very interesting way to me. You guys are much more open to them. And I would just hope, or my personal opinion is to not give them that love and respect or access to yourself until they put some money in your pocket. They don't deserve access to us. They don't deserve access to our language, culture, especially our bodies, until they put some fucking money in our pockets or make something better. Because they haven't done that, and we're just letting them off the hook. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? They have everything. They're here with everything. They're here rich. Have you guys seen poor white people here? No. But there's surely a lot of white people here doing fine. There's Black people outside begging. There's white people out here fucking chilling.
Yeah, but I feel like the struggle, in a way, the Black American people and the African people, we have a disconnect because we don't know your struggles. Like for us, it's like, for example, if my mom went to, she went to Seattle like 10 years ago. Okay. So for her, she wasn't looking to like my people, the Black people. She was like, I'm here to work.
I just show you that page from the Negro Digest. I'm not here for no civil rights. Why should I lose myself, figuratively and literally, if that ain't got nothing to do with me?
Right. I need to make ends meet. I need to do this for my kids. So whatever the white man needs, and it's like getting out of that mindset, and it's like our issues are more than being recognized. As long as you respect me, you're paying my check, we have that professional relationship, whatever. I'm not gonna like try to have my rights. If you,
I have a question. As a Black girl, okay, so it's okay to say that as a Black woman or someone from Africa, if I go to the States, it's okay for me to bend over backwards to please you as a white person, just as long as I get paid.
It's not about the white person. It's about knowing your goals and knowing your network and how to deal with different people. So it's more about seeing someone's race. But if someone is being racist towards you, you figure out how to deal with that in the wisest way possible, and you move forward to people.
scarcity. I'll deal with it to keep my. I ain't want to say it too. It also is how relationships end up working with people outside your race. I ain't want to get into that, but you end up dealing with more BS because this is supposed to work. Jenna said, folks always got to bring Seattle into the equation. Yeah, it's funny she ended up coming to Seattle. Yeah. 10 years ago too, so yeah, same old Seattle. Well, actually it was a very different Seattle before COVID. I haven't seen whatever happened to Bite of Seattle and all that stuff. Do they still do that? I don't even know. But anyway, yeah, different mindset. She said the same thing they said in 1965, and you got the dude there who I assume is Black American, and he's just frustrated. He doesn't understand that it's just different, man. You grew up in the belly of the beast. Like, it is what it is. They didn't. Their only idea of white people is stuff that happened, to them at least, stuff that happened in the 50s, 40s, 30s, 1800s. And recently, it's been white people building wells for them, helping the government build infrastructure. Like, it's, hell, even the entertainment industry, it's because of influence from white people. So they don't have the same understanding. That's why you hear a lot of Pan-Africans. I always say Pan-Africans treat Africans like liberals treat Black people. The racism of low expectations, where they don't know no better. We got to teach them. They don't understand. And it's like, look, man, their experience is their experience, and that's how they're gonna live it. That's how they're gonna teach their kids. Virginia said Dukes do Bite is still on. Oh, it is. I went to Bite of Seattle. What was that? 20. They had to be like 2014, 13. I think it was. That was a long time ago. I went to that one time. I went to it was a festival. It was who was on stage? It was hold on. I think it was like KC and the Sunshine Band or something that showed up out there. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's the last time I went. I ain't been there in a minute. But yeah, I gotta get out of here. What time is it? 1:47. Yeah. Good. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the show. I get out of here. Please stop the gender wars. I seen the Alyssa Johnson. Keith says the pull up by fair. No, it was I don't even remember the name. I know it was at the park. And we ate some Philly cheese. We ate some Philly cheesesteak. And my dad is from North Carolina, but he grew up in Philly. He had a little time in Philly, so he has attachment to them. He's a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles. Got a lot of family in Philadelphia, but cause he wanted those Philly cheesesteaks. And that was like 2013, 2014. I want to say it was Bite of Seattle, yeah. Virginia said, yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah, it was wow. Thanks for the show. Good show, dude. Thanks for peace, love, and everyone. Shout out to y'all. Thanks y'all for coming through. As I said, please end the gender wars. Rest in peace to the people that's passed the situations. I said we talked about Ashley Johnson. We talked about the Fairview what's the name? The Fairview family with Roland Martin. The David story. We'll see an update on that, whether or not if he's the weirdo or not. Hopefully everything is cleared up. But anyway, man, thank y'all for coming through. I appreciate the support. Be sure to like it on your way out. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you're not. As always, I appreciate y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully enjoy the conversation. And as always, y'all be safe. All praise to the Most High. And man.